Do you know who you're shadowing?
I know, it was. I'm going in this Friday and next Friday. Yeah. Or at least I gave her the date. She's like, we're done.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, everybody.
I'm gonna ask because it's in my class on Monday.
Good morning.
Remember, it's
In
there's no class on.
last class, we talked about the heart, right? Today we'll talk about the blood vessels. You know that cardiovascular system consists of a heart and many blood vessels, right? Blood vessels include what? Arteries, veins, capillaries, okay? Arteries take the blood away from the heart. That's the definition I mentioned before, right? Don't think what kind of blood. Any blood vessel that takes blood away from the heart, that is an artery. Make sense? Veins bring the blood towards the heart. So any blood vessel that brings the blood or moves the blood towards the heart, that is a vein. Now, in systemic circulation, that means between heart and the body, arteries carry oxygenated, veins carry deoxygenated. In pulmonary, just opposite. Arteries carry deoxygenated, veins carry oxygenated. Capillaries are located between the arterial system and venous system. This is an artery, and these are the small arteries. Small arteries are called arterioles. Okay, so these are arterioles or small arteries. From the end of the arterioles, capillaries start. So these are the capillaries. Okay, so these are the capillaries. This one is not writing.
You said they attach
To the arterioles. Yeah, the end of the arterioles. This is the end of the arteriole, right? This is the arteriole. From the end of the arterioles, capillaries start.
and then what do they attach to on the other side?
Yeah, I'm coming. Okay. Let me just come. Okay, so and capillaries form bed. That is called capillary bed. Network. Okay. So this is what? Arteriole. Small artery. Okay. And this is artery. And on the other side of the capillary bed, you have the vein. This is the small vein. Okay. Then a small vein will give the blood to a larger vein, like this. Okay. And then we go to the heart. So your heart is here. So you see, arteries take the blood out from the heart. Okay, so this is the artery, and veins take the blood back towards the heart, and finally gives blood to the heart. And this is systemic circulation. So this side is the left side, so oxygenated blood. Okay, and this is right side, deoxygenated blood. So from the left side of the heart, from left ventricle, blood enters into the aorta and then goes to the other arteries, and at the end of the small arteriole, capillaries are formed, and then from the capillary bed, blood enters into the vein, venous system. First into a small vein, then medium-sized vein, then larger veins. And the largest veins are superior inferior vena cava. They give blood to the right side of the heart. Okay, so that is the circulation, systemic circulation. Now, the arteries could be three types. Okay. Largest arteries like aorta, pulmonary arteries, pulmonary trunk, those are big arteries, right, close to the heart. Largest arteries are called elastic arteries or conducting arteries. Example, aorta and its branches, pulmonary trunk and its branches. Why largest arteries are called elastic arteries? Because in the wall you have more elastic fibers. In the wall you have what? More elastic fibers. And that's why those arteries can expand. Make sense? Because of elastic fibers. They can expand. It is important to see, this is your heart, this is the aorta. So when heart pumps, ventricle pumps, right? A lot of blood suddenly enters into aorta. And aorta expands. If it cannot expand, stays squeezed, then some blood will go back into the heart, right? Pressure will be more there. Since aorta can expand, it can take blood into it. Make sense? And let it get out from the heart. So the elastic arteries are the large arteries and they can expand. Why they can expand? Because in the wall they have a lot of what? Elastic fibers. Okay? That's why they are also called elastic arteries. Okay. Medium-sized arteries are called muscular arteries or distributing arteries. Why? Because you see, from the large artery, branches arise and go to different organs. For example, this branch is going to the spleen, splenic artery. You must remember. Renal artery goes to the kidney. Hepatic artery goes to the liver. So these are medium-sized arteries. Okay? Branches from the large arteries. Okay? So from large arteries, medium-sized arteries arise. And those are called, also called distributing or muscular arteries. Why those are called muscular arteries? Because in the wall you have more smooth muscle. Less elastic fibers, more muscle fibers. That's why they are called muscular. And distributing, because you see, I have already mentioned, from large arteries, they take the blood and distribute to different organs. Make sense? Taking from big arteries and giving to different organs. So that's why they are also called distributing arteries. And then smallest arteries are called arterioles. So arterioles are the smallest arteries, and from the end of the arterioles, capillaries start. If you see the wall of elastic, muscular and arterial, you see here in this graph, they are showing the amount of elastic tissue, muscle tissue. Just focus on these two. You already know in elastic artery, you have more elastic fibers. The blue bars are showing elastic fibers. So if you compare with muscular and arterial, you see the amount is much more in the elastic artery. In muscular artery, if you compare the amount of muscle fibers, you see muscle fiber is more in muscular arteries. Okay? So that makes sense. Capillaries. Capillary wall is extremely thin, very thin. In most of the places, if you see the capillary wall, a basement membrane and a simple squamous. How many of you remember simple squamous? Squamous, what type of cells? Flat, right? Simple means single layer, right? Stratified means multiple layer. Remember that. Okay, so this is the wall of the capillary. simple squamous cells, and all epithelial cells rest on basement membrane. So that is the wall of basement membrane and simple squamous. Okay. So that is the wall of the capillary, very thin, and that helps because also there are fenestrations or pores. So the chemicals can get in and out easily through the wall of the capillary, which is very important because we know that exchange of chemicals take place through the capillary wall. Arteries and veins do what? Only transport, okay? Arteries take the blood away from the heart, veins bring the blood towards the heart, right? Exchange of nutrients, oxygen, carbon dioxide, metabolic wastes, all those things happen through the wall of the capillary. Make sense? So that's why capillary membrane is very thin and highly permeable. So they can pass through the capillary wall. So capillaries are exchange blood vessels. Then if you see the wall of a venule, venule is small vein. Small vein is also called venule. Okay? It is also very thin, and then if you see the wall of a vein compared to arterial wall. Now let's see, look at this one. This is the wall of a vein, and let's go back. You see this is the wall of an artery. So you can see here the wall is much thicker in artery than the vein. Okay? Also look at the muscular layer here, the red color. It's much thicker in the arterial wall. But now look at the lumen. The size of the lumen opening is smaller here, but much bigger here. Make sense? So those are the differences between an artery and vein. You tell me, wall in a vein is thick or thin compared to artery? Thin, right? You see here. Look at this. And look at that. Make sense? This is much thicker, right? Size of the lumen is larger in vein, right? Compared to artery. And those are the differences between an artery and a vein. So here you can see the arterial system, capillaries, venous system. Okay? Elastic artery, muscular artery, arterial, the smallest artery, and then the capillary bed, then the venule, and the larger veins. Now one thing, in most of the places, arterioles form capillary beds. But in some places, or sometimes, what happens is, see, arteriole without forming the capillary bed is going to the venule. So directly from the arterial system, blood is going to the venous system, bypassing the capillary bed without going through the capillary bed. Make sense? And those are not, plenty, but in some areas you have those, and that is called arteriovenous anastomosis. That means artery and vein. This is arterial, right? This is venial. They are anastomoses, connected. Now this, okay. Now you see here, oxygenated blood is directly going to deoxygenated blood. Artery, from artery, oxygenated blood without giving the oxygen to the tissue, going to the venous blood. Make sense? Because there is no capillary. We know that tissue gets oxygen through the wall of the capillary, right? Since there is no capillary here, no exchange is occurring here. Here exchange is occurring, right? Oxygen is getting out, going to the tissue, right? Carbon dioxide is coming back into the blood. But here the oxygenated blood is going to the venous blood, which is not good. Because oxygenated blood should go to the tissue and give oxygen to the tissue, right? Before it goes to the venous blood. That happens here, right? Exchange occurs. Right? Here, that is not happening. But we don't have many. We have many of these compared to that. That is called shunt. So that's why, in your venous blood, the amount of oxygen is staying a little bit high compared to, if you compare blood here and here, you have more oxygen here because the oxygenated blood is going there. Yes?
I was just going to ask what happens to the oxygen then? It just goes into the...
Yes, that is shunt.
Well, it can go into the tissues because it's not going through the capillary.
No, it gets used.
Oh.
Your body uses it, right? And then
Second?
your body uses the oxygen, and then all of a sudden it's deoxygenated again. Like.
So how does it get out to use it? If it's going into the vein?
This oxygen,
Yeah,
how it gets out?
like if it just goes into the vein.
Yeah, it does not. That's why I said it's,
Okay, yeah.
but there is not many, right? If many of those more, you have arteriovenous anastomosis than this, that could have been a problem, right? Because without any exchange, blood is going to the venous blood, doesn't make any sense, right? But that happens in the body. We don't know why. Okay, we don't know why that happens, but we have some arteriovenous anastomosis. Okay, so we have already talked about the wall of the artery is thicker than the wall of the vein. The lumen in artery is smaller than the lumen in the vein. Transport of gas, we know in systemic circulation, arteries carry oxygenated and veins carry deoxygenated. In pulmonary, it is opposite. I have already mentioned that. Direction of blood flow, I have already mentioned. Pressure. Pressure of blood is high inside the artery than the vein. Pressure of blood is high inside the artery. Why? One reason is, you see here, when your ventricle contracts forcefully, blood enters into the arterial system first, right? Then goes through the capillary beds and then enters into the venous system, right? So since blood directly enters from the heart into the arterial system, the pressure is high here. And as the blood passes through the capillary bed, it gets very slow. And when it comes here, the pressure is really low. So as you go further away, pressure goes down. So in the arterial system, the pressure is high. In the venous system, pressure is low. Make sense? Now, valves. Inside the large veins, you have valves. In the artery, you don't have valves. So here, we see some valves like this inside the large arteries. So the blood can go up towards the heart, and these valves will stop if the blood tries to come back. So it should go towards the heart, okay? So that's why you have some valves there to prevent backflow of blood. Plenty of valves are present in the large veins of your leg. Yes?
Is that because of gravity or just because it's going against gravity based?
That is one big factor. That's why I said in your leg, you have, because leg is further away down, okay? So you have more valves in the large veins, yes. And it is, blood is slow. When blood finally enters after passing all these, right? Enters into the venous system, I said pressure is low, right? So the valves help the blood to move towards the heart, okay? And it goes against the gravity too, yes. So those are the differences between the artery and the vein. I have already talked about systemic and pulmonary circulation and the differences between systemic and pulmonary. Remember, long circuit, short circuit, high pressure, low pressure, right? So the differences between systemic and pulmonary circulation. Now we'll see the major arteries and veins. Major arteries are here. This is the arterial system of your body. So we'll start from the heart. Who takes the blood out from the left ventricle? The largest artery.
Superior vein cave.
I asked artery, you are answering vein. Aorta, yes, very good. This one is not working. This is this one. Okay, so this is the left ventricle. From here, we know that aorta takes the blood out. Okay, so this is the aorta. This part is called, aorta has three parts. You see, this part short is called ascending aorta, and this part is the arch. It is called aortic arch. Makes sense? And this long part is called descending aorta. Makes sense, right? So aorta has three parts: ascending, arch, and what? Descending aorta, going down. Which part is the longest? Descending, right? And heart sits on what? How many of you remember?
Diaphragm.
Diaphragm, very good. So this is diaphragm, right? Very good. And you see, the descending aorta passes through the diaphragm. Make sense? Pierces through diaphragm. And so it's like this, coming out from the heart, forming arch and going like this. Okay? So passing through the diaphragm, and diaphragm separates the descending aorta into two parts. Above the diaphragm, this part is called thoracic. Some people say thoracic aorta. Because we know above the diaphragm is the thoracic cavity. And below the diaphragm, this part is abdominal cavity, right? You know that. So this part is called abdominal aorta. Make sense? So above the diaphragm is what? Thoracic. Below the diaphragm, abdominal aorta. Okay, very good. Okay, now we'll see the important branches of aorta. First, let's see the ascending aorta. From ascending aorta, two very important arteries arise and go to the wall of the heart. Those are called what? Right and left. Coronary arteries. Have you heard that? Coronary arteries, right and left, in the wall of the heart, right? To supply blood to the heart. Heart needs blood. So, very important. Coronary arteries, right and left, arise from the ascending aorta and goes to the wall of the heart. Then aortic arch. From aortic arch, three large arteries arise, like this.
Oh.
You have seen in the heart model, right? Remember that? Okay. So, from right to left, This is called brachiocephalic trunk. Left common carotid, left subclavian. So this is brachiocephalic trunk, left common carotid, left subclavian. Make sense? 3 big arteries. So now you see here, you have left common carotid, left subclavian, right? You got left common carotid, left subclavian. Where are the right common carotid and right subclavian? They don't come directly from aorta, but they are the branches of brachiocephalic trunk. So brachiocephalic trunk divides into 2. So this is brachiocephalic trunk, this one, right? And divides into right common carotid, right subclavian. So brachiocephalic trunk, make sense? Let me draw here. This is the aortic arch. So this is brachiocephalic trunk, left common carotid, left subclavian. So brachiocephalic trunk, left common carotid, left subclavian, right? So where are the right common carotid, right subclavian? They are the branches of brachiocephalic trunk. This is right common carotid. This is right what? Subclavian. Now you have what? Now you have 2 common carotid, 2 subclavian, right? Left subclavian, right subclavian. Left common carotid, right common carotid. Make sense? Now common, when you will hear common in arterial system, usually common artery divides into external and internal. So common will divide into external and internal. So this is common carotid. Right common carotid will divide into right external carotid, right internal carotid. Sorry, this is left side. Left external carotid, left internal carotid. This is right internal carotid, right external carotid. Okay. So both common carotid will divide into external and internal. Very simple. Okay. Both right and left common carotid will divide into what? External and internal. Let's quickly review. This is what? Aortic arch. From aortic arch, 3, right? Large arteries arise from right to left.
Left central or carotid.
Left common carotid.
Common carotid.
Right? Yes. Then, hold on, I did a mistake. Let me go back, okay? Because this is left common carotid, right? And this is brachiocephalic, and brachiocephalic divides into right common carotid, right subclavian. This one will stay like this. Now you see left common carotid and right common carotid. Both common will divide into external and internal. So let's first see the right common carotid divides into internal and external. This is left common carotid divides into external and internal. Okay? So this is external, this is internal. So now you see 2 external, 2 internal carotid. Now remember, internal carotid supplies blood to the inner part of the head, and external carotid supplies blood to the outer part of the head. Okay? So inner part of the head is what? Mainly brain, right? So internal, both right and left internal carotid, you see, both right and left internal carotid, they will go to the inner part of the brain, head, that means supply blood to the brain. And external carotids, both right and left, will go to the outer part of the head, that means to the skin, muscles, bones. Okay, outer structures of the head. So That is the upper part of the body. Okay? Then descending aorta, thoracic part, thoracic aorta. This part doesn't have many branches. Important branches are from here, intercostal, in between the ribs. These branches are called intercostal arteries. Okay? A number of intercostal arteries arise and go to the areas between the ribs like this. Intercostal is in between the ribs. Make sense? From this thoracic part. Superior phrenic. Remember, the term phrenic indicates diaphragm. So you see, from thoracic aorta, these arteries arise and go to the diaphragm. This is the diaphragm, you remember? So these are called superior phrenic arteries. Phrenic indicates diaphragm. Okay? And since they are coming from above, they are called superior phrenic arteries. Now let's go to the abdominal aorta. This part is very important because most of the organs are inside the abdomen, right? So first, from the early part of abdominal aorta, arteries arise and go to the diaphragm. These are called what? Inferior phrenic arteries. So you see, we got superior phrenic from thoracic aorta, inferior phrenic from abdominal aorta. All are going to the diaphragm because phrenic. Okay, so that's how diaphragm gets oxygenated blood. Then you have from the front of the abdominal aorta, if this is the abdominal aorta, from the front, 3 arteries arise like this. And from both sides, other arteries arise. So we have 2 types of arteries come from abdominal aorta. Paired and unpaired. Paired arteries and unpaired arteries. Okay? So first, let's see the unpaired arteries. Those are single. From the front of the abdominal aorta, this one comes out, and that is called celiac trunk. Celiac trunk. It's like this, comes out like this. It is trunk. Trunk means small artery. The word trunk indicates small. So this is a small artery, and it divides into 3 branches. What are those? Gastric artery, splenic artery, hepatic artery. So celiac trunk is short artery, arises from the front of the abdominal aorta, and it gives 3 important branches. What are those? Gastric, splenic, and hepatic. Okay? Gastric should go where? The stomach. Gastric indicates stomach. Okay? Splenic should go to the spleen. Yeah, that one is easy, right? And hepatic should go to the liver. Make sense? Hepatic means liver. Is it clear? So those 3 arteries are the branches of celiac trunk. This is the celiac trunk. Then you have another artery which is also unpaired. That is called superior mesenteric. Superior mesenteric artery. And this one is also single, called inferior mesenteric artery. So remember those three: celiac trunk, superior mesenteric, inferior mesenteric. Mesenteric arteries supply blood to your intestine. Gastric supplies to the stomach, right? Gastric artery. And mesenteric supplies to the intestine. Make sense? Now you tell me, there are two mesenteric, right? Superior and inferior. Which one should supply blood to the small intestine and which one to the large intestine? Superior should supply to the upper part of the intestine. Inferior should supply to the lower part of the intestine, right? So upper part of the intestine is small intestine and lower part is what? Large intestine. Make sense? So superior mesenteric, there is some overlapping, but just you don't need to go into that detail. Superior mesenteric supplies blood mainly to the small intestine, that means upper part of the intestine. Inferior mesenteric mainly to the lower part of the intestine, which is what? Large intestine. Is that clear? Okay. So those are unpaired arteries. Celiac trunk, superior mesenteric, inferior mesenteric. Paired arteries, one I have already mentioned, inferior phrenic, go to the diaphragm, right? Two. Then you have suprarenal arteries, renal arteries. Renal arteries supply blood to the kidney, you know that. Renal means kidney, right? So renal artery will go to the kidney, both sides. Suprarenal will go to the adrenal gland because it is also called suprarenal gland. This is suprarenal gland or adrenal gland. This is suprarenal artery, both sides. So suprarenal, renal, okay. Also gonadal will go to the gonads, testes and ovaries, okay. So gonadal arteries. So let me write it down. Suprarenal to the adrenal gland or suprarenal gland, renal artery to the kidney, gonadal artery to the gonad. Okay? So those are all paired because you have two kidneys, two suprarenal glands, right? Two gonads, two testes or two ovaries, right? So, you know that. Okay. So, make sense? Those are paired, two in number. Make sense? Okay. So quickly, let's review it. Okay. So you help me, okay? So this is the left ventricle. Oxygenated blood first enters into what? Aorta. Very good. Aorta has three parts. This part going upwards. Ascending. This aortic arch, right? Like St. Louis arch. And then descending. This is the longest part, right? And descending is separated by diaphragm. Above the diaphragm, thoracic. Make sense? Below the diaphragm, abdominal. Make sense? Okay. Now, from ascending, two very important arteries go to the wall of the heart. Those are called
Coronary.
right and left, right? Coronary arteries. From aortic arch, three large arteries arise, right? Like this, and those are brachiocephalic tract, left common carotid, left subclavian. Make sense? So you got left common carotid, left subclavian. So where are the right common carotid, right subclavian?
There are none.
They are the branches of brachiocephalic tract. Right common carotid, right subclavian. Make sense? So now we got everything, right? right common carotid, left common carotid, right subclavian and left subclavian. Is it clear? That's the goal. You need both sides. Okay. Now common. I said when you will hear common in arteries, usually common divides into what? Two. Internal and external. So both right common carotid will and left common carotid will divide into external and internal. Make sense? Because both are common. Now I said that internal carotid supplies blood to which part of the head? Internal part of the head. That means the brain. External carotid supplies blood to the outer structures of the head, right? Muscles, bones, right? Skin, those structures. Is it clear? There is some overlapping, but just know that internal carotid for the brain, external carotid for the outer structures, okay, of the head. Both will supply blood to the head. Is it clear? Okay. Now let's see the thoracic part of the aorta. A number of paired arteries arise from thoracic aorta. Those are called what? Intercostal arteries. In between the ribs will go like this. Make sense? They come from the back like this. In between the ribs. That's why called intercostal. Costal means rib. Okay. And from the lower part of thoracic aorta, these arteries will go where? Diaphragm. That's why they are called phrenic, right? Coming from above, that's why superior. Now let's see the abdominal aorta. From abdominal aorta also two arteries go to the diaphragm. So they are also phrenic, but they are what? Inferior phrenic. Make sense? Okay. Then from the abdominal aorta, other paired arteries are suprarenal arteries for suprarenal glands, renal arteries for kidneys, gonadal arteries for the gonads. Make sense? Those are paired. You have to think what are the paired organs you have in the abdomen, right? Two kidneys, two suprarenal glands sitting on the kidneys, two gonads, right? So those are the arteries. Unpaired arteries are what? This one is celiac trunk, and it is trunk. That means what? Long or short?
Short.
Short. Short artery is a trunk, and it divides into how many branches? Three: gastric, splenic, hepatic, or stomach, spleen, and liver. Make sense? And then inferior, superior, and inferior mesenteric. Mesenteric supplies blood to the intestine, right? Superior mesenteric to the upper part of the intestine, which is mainly the small intestine. Inferior mesenteric, lower part of the intestine, which is mainly what? Large intestine. Is it clear? Okay, good. Now the lower end of the abdominal aorta, what happens here? It divides into two large branches. Okay. Two large branches. Those are called common iliac arteries. So this is right common iliac, left common iliac. Right and left common iliac. Now I said common will divide into what? Two: external and internal. So same thing will happen here too. This common, both common will divide into what? Internal and external. Now you see here, this is common, this part, and then it divides into external and internal. Which one is big, external or internal?
External.
External goes to the lower limb, to the thigh. Internal stays here in the pelvic area, pelvic cavity. Make sense? So, same thing here. Internal will stay there, external will go to the thigh. So this is external iliac,
How far down is your elbow go
and this is external iliac. This is these both are internal iliac.
When someone gets a heart transplant, they take out the whole thing. Like when they do a heart transplant, like the whole aorta that goes all the way down, like the whole descending. No, just
No.
just the normal.
So they stay there.
Okay.
Just readjust the gate.
They sometimes they do stent, ballooning, just expand. They pass catheter through that from groin area. Okay, so we got it. Lower end of the abdominal aorta divides into what? Two common, right? Right and left, common iliac. And then common will divide into external and internal. Which one is bigger? External is much bigger than internal, okay? And goes to the thigh. Internal stays in the pelvic cavity. Make sense?